I'm Jim Coppinger. I am the technical principal here at ZenTek Consultants. And with me on the line today, I have Julie Keverian of Bricsys, who is kind of the CAD super user and guru over at BricsCAD. So she's going to give us a wonderful walkthrough on today's topic, which is all the new and cool things in BricsCAD, both Lite and Pro for V26.1. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to remind you guys, we are ZenTek Consultants, and most of you guys on the line already know us. We are your BricsCAD partner and reseller, but just want to put a bug in your ear that we do a lot more in the CAD space than just sell you the software. We're here to help you guys with everything you need, whether it's training, support, development of standards, particularly in the civil and survey space, CAD libraries, workflows, processes, really anything you need. And feel free at any point. You can hit our website, call us at the number you see up there on the screen, or just email us, sales@zentekconsultants.net. And that's all the sales pitch I'm going to give you today. And with that, I am actually going to turn you guys over to Julie so she can give you the good stuff you came here to hear about. Julie?
All right, thank you. So I know we don't have a lot of time. I have a little bit of PowerPoint and a little bit of live demo and a little bit of videos. So, I just want to make sure that my audio is shared. Well, we'll find out when we get to the videos. I think it is. All right, with that, again, I think most of you know who is BricsCAD. Just a quick little reminder that we are the true CAD alternative. We have a couple of things that we'd like to keep in mind and make you aware of, and that's that we believe CAD should be accessible, not cost prohibitive, and with licensing models that support how you work. And it should be software that's built on industry standards, which we are. We are on the DWG file format, and a lot of people think that that is proprietary to Autodesk. It is not. It is an open standard. And that's important because that means, as you probably know, there's no headaches to convert things. If you've got customization that can be brought over, there's a very short learning curve. And of course, that all goes into a smooth transition with kind of what I've already said. But also, we're very committed to your success, and we focus to deliver capabilities that matter to you. And if any of you have had to use our support team, I think you'll agree that we have outstanding support for customers as well, actually, and prospects. So a little bit more about BricsCAD. We fit here in the design, development, detailed design documentation area. We're kind of for the doers out there. We're smart, scalable, and affordable. And with that, we've got, as you probably know, a couple of tool sets, as well as different levels of BricsCAD. Lite for strictly 2D work. Pro, that includes everything in Lite and adds 3D modeling. It also adds third-party application support, civil survey tool set, endpoint clouds. The mechanical has everything that Lite and Pro have and adds the mechanical tool sets. BIM, similar to mechanical, but it has the BIM tool sets, not the mechanical. And if you want everything, that is Ultimate. So let's get to the meat of it. What is new and improved in 26.1? And if you don't know, 26.1 was released a week ago yesterday, a week ago Tuesday. So it's brand new and out and about. In general, especially for 2D drafting around BricsCAD Lite and Pro, we wanted to improve features and introduce features to help streamline 2D drafting workflows, improve precision, save time. Things like, and we'll see some of this, we have a new launcher and we've simplified the ribbon and how it works with workspaces. We've got some new notifications, look from widget, command preview to help with trimming and extending. We introduced the measure geometry command to make it easier to find area, volumes, and just measurements on any geometry. The ability to reverse the direction of lines, P-lines, splines, and helixes. And we've added that option to use the shift key to temporarily put on ortho mode when you're drawing an M leader, when you've got that leader, so it snaps to 0 or 90 degrees. Now, this is something that you could do with the regular leader command. So we've just added that for M leader. So here is the updated launcher. You can see all of the different workspaces. This is for Pro. And then this is the new notification center. It is a more consistent way of having pop-up notifications, and we call it toast because it pops up like your toast pops out of the toaster, and it does auto dismiss after 5 seconds. Some things that are improved, if you were familiar, if you used the what we call the QT status bar that we introduced in V25, that's now the default. And if you're familiar with Blockify, we've now made part of that available right from within the Create Block dialog box. So you can just start creating a block and that kicks in. We've improved filtering in QSelect. So instead of having to click one thing and then it goes out of the dialog, that's much better and simplified. And we've added stacked fraction settings for mText. So you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of changes. So yes, there are some variable settings that have changed from V26, or I'm sorry, from V25. Probably the biggest one is the quad is turned off by default. And this is probably more for new customers who are just transitioning from AutoCAD, because the quad was something that was very unique, that is very unique to BricsCAD. So it is turned off by default, which means when you do your right click, you're going to see the context sensitive menus. Now, if you prefer to have the quad work as it did in 25, turn your shortcut menu to 19, your quad display to 7, because the default setting is that shortcut menu and quad display are both going to be 3. Also, I mentioned that the QT status bar now is on by default. We introduced that in 25. So if you want to use it, the default now is use new status bar is at 1. And this is that QT status bar here. It's got the pictures, it's got some color. If you prefer the quote old status bar, just set that new status bar variable to 0. There's also a new look from tool. And that is use new look from equals 1. If you want to use the old one, set that variable to 2. I mentioned there's now a way to set your auto stack properties to be a default. This is only for mText, not dimensions, just mText. So you can enable them, choose diagonal or horizontal for the fraction, and you have the option of removing or not removing the leading blank in between your whole number and your fraction. All right, so let's jump in to BricsCAD. So let's start with, here is that QT status bar, right? So one of the things that we've changed, kind of overlaps between the status bar and the ribbon, are the workspaces. We've reordered the workspaces so that they control the ribbon. So right now, if I switch to the 2D drafting ribbon, this is the version 25 classic ribbon, which more closely replicates AutoCAD. The 2D drafting modern, as you might guess, is in V25, that was the modern ribbon. So that's going to push forward more of the BricsCAD unique features. Now, regardless of the ribbon, you can still type in a command. As long as you're in, we're in Pro here, you still have access to all the commands. It just may not be accessible from the ribbon. And of course, we've got 3D modeling, civil survey, and if you like no ribbon, which goes way back, if you can remember, before there was a ribbon, where everything was toolbars and your panels were stacked. We do still have that ribbon. I'm going to stick into the modern ribbon for this presentation. Now, because of these changes to the workspaces tying into the ribbon, the interface settings has slightly changed. There no longer is that ribbon option to choose classic, modern, or toolbars, because now those are associated with the workspace. But you can still change your labels, no labels, your theme, dark or light, how your panels stack, whether you want the status bar, menu bar, and any customization. But that's just a little bit on the UI there. And as I said, if you want the other status bar, use new status bar and just change that variable. I believe you'll have to restart BricsCAD if you do that. The other big change that I mentioned was around the quad. So you're going to see that by default, this is what's going to be turned off, this show quad on right click. Now I've gone and reset all of my variables, so that should be working. But that is something that if you do like the quad, you are going to want to turn that back on, and those different variable settings as well. So let's talk about quick select. So here this is actually an outline of a submarine, and there's a lot of scaffolding around this submarine. Let me change my view here. Here, we've got a lot of these diagonals, and they're on various different layers. So one of the improvements in Quick Select is the filtering options. Now, when we go in to see the different types of entities, I can pick as many of as I want or unselect them without getting kicked out of this selection area. We can also go in and go to the layer and select multiple layers that we want to include in this selection set. And again, before, every time I clicked one layer, that dialog box rolled up. So you had to click it again. So it probably cuts your clicks in at least half, if not more. So now I've made my selections. Maybe I want to turn these all onto the same layer. We can use rollover tips to put those in the new layer. So that's one way of working with QSelect. The other way, another thing that we can do is for more wildcard searches, if you will. So let me turn on the structure browser, and let's change that to be sorting by block. I want to see my block names. And we can see that there are a lot of block names that start with capital BAS. So we don't need the structure browser anymore. But again, if we go back into Quick Select and filter on our block references, when we come down here to the panel, we can see name. This star is going to give you your options, and they're going to change based on, whether you're looking at scale, elevation, block type, name. And these are my selection options. So I can use a wildcard filter that, Shift 8, the star key, to add that to my selection, and now only those blocks that have started with dot, or not dot, but BAS have been selected. Now this is case sensitive, so that's why when I did select it, it was capital B and then lower AS. So again, huge time savings around filtering in Quick Select. All right, what about Blockify? I said we made some changes in there, and let's look at a couple examples on that. So again, using our submarine, let's go to some toe boards. So these are not blocks. We can see there's quite a lot of lines and polylines in one of these toe boards. So of course we can go into Blockify, that's, we still have that ability to go into Blockify, but sometimes it was a little challenging to understand what option of Blockify do I need to use. So we've incorporated some of Blockify within the create block definition. It's down here, this toggle perform background scan while running the block command. So let's make a new block for toe boards. And select on screen what we want that block to be. Takes a couple of seconds here, and we get this dialog that says, hey, we found some matches. Actually, we found 14 duplicates of what I selected to create a new block. Do you want to apply Blockify and convert all of the geometry to the new block? And when we say yes, it brings up the Blockify panel, just as if we had started Blockify on its own, and gives you the same options. So you still have control to pick and choose what should be converted. If you're not sure, it's a big drawing, you don't know where something is, again, you can pan and zoom around that. We'll go ahead and take the option to replace everything. All 15 of them are now the toe boards, that toe boards to new block. And this is really doing, if we go back into Blockify, what this is doing is detecting matches with selected entities. So that's what we were doing if we opened up Blockify. So there's also another option when you create use create block. I won't go into it because I know we're short on time, but it will help you prevent creating a duplicate block definition. So if you try to create a block, and BricsCAD is going to scan and say, hey, there's already a block definition that matches this. So it'll ask you, do you want to use the existing definition or do you want to create a new one? So again, some really nice productivity tools for you there. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint and talk about some of the other enhancements and new features in the other verticals. So specifically for land surveyors, what we've done is we've really made some tools that help them fit into wider workflows. What do I mean by that? Well, we have support for GML language. We've got more automation around points and auto mapping. Auto mapping allows you to automatically assign codes, attribute and styles to civil points very quickly. And the #1 requested feature was to give you civil cross sections. So I'm going to play a video here. And guys, please let me know if the sound doesn't come across. But my counterpart, Rita, did this video on how to create civil sections and civil views.
In this example, I have a thin surface representing the existing terrain and a design of a project. The first step is to define the alignment which we want to extrapolate our sections from. To see how my design and grading interact with the terrain, I'll start with the sections line command. Here, I choose the layers and width from my section, every 20 meters along the alignment, and set the start and the end of the area I want to cover with mine. Once that's done, it's time to create section views. The software automatically counts those. And in the Manage Data Sources option, we can see the actual entities we want to make visible in the section. Let's place the section views on the side of our drawing and change the annotation scale for a better visualization. In the setting of our Civil Explorer, we've added the section view style, which can be customized accordingly to your preference, for example, by adjusting the vertical acceleration. As with all our settings, the label property can display various entity attributes, and we can decide what information we want to show in our section. In the display menu, we can customize or turn off some entities. I'll get rid of the grid to make it look cleaner and change the color of the center line. I need to apply these new parameters to the section views I just created. Using select similar entities, I can quickly change the style from default to section. With one click, my sections take on a more realistic and easy to read appearance. Now, let's test the dynamism of our sections by splitting the screen into viewports. By selecting and dragging one of the sections lines in the plan view, you can see directly in the right viewport how the section updates accordingly. This means that if something changes along the way, you don't need to redo the process from scratch. what if we need to have the new Entity Explorer section? From the Civil Explorer, let's open the data source and add our solid to the list. Instantly, you can see how the wall being added to the section view. And of course, if you move the section line in plan, the wall will appear along every section that intersects.
Okay, now point clouds. We've had a lot of improvements in point clouds. We've redesigned the point cloud manager. We've made improvements to point cloud visualization and how geographic information is handled within point clouds, as well as some other enhancements. Now, there are a couple of breakout sessions on point clouds, and I encourage you to take a look at them. This first one I'm going to play will also show you that you can access the actual point clouds that Linda's been using in these breakouts. So if you want to do the same, play around with that, you can. So let me just play one of these videos from part of one of these videos from Linda.
Let's have a look at the differences between V25 and V26 when it comes to pre-processing point clouds in BricsCAD. Now, in V25, even though you could work with multiple types of point cloud formats, the pre-processing dialog was a little basic. Now, we've updated it to include a thumbnail and metadata, such as whether the point cloud has scans, normals, UCSs, the number of points, and more. Some of these metadata can be changed. So, for example, you can rename a scan in order to make it easier to identify. If you work with outdoor scans, you may notice that there are geographical coordinates associated with it. This will show up in the dialog box, and when attaching, you'll be asked whether you want to use it. Note that if you do, then it will override the coordinate system associated with the drawing. So make sure you have your workflow set up beforehand. When you attach the point cloud, you can continue to use it in your survey workflows with things such as adding maps from an internet server. Here we use the geomap command to add some background mapping. And note that by adding the point cloud with geographic location data means we don't have to set it. We can just add an online map, in this case from an Esri server, and voila, you have a background map for your point cloud. Other things you can do are switching off the classes within the point cloud itself, except for ground, and you can create a tin surface. Now make sure that you keep an eye on the command line when you're doing this, so that you can set variables such as whether you want to simplify the tin and by how much. Once you're done, you have a tin surface that can be used in any type of civil workflow, just as any other. If you want to play around with this functionality to see how it can make your workflows more efficient, you can find the sample data set that I'm using at Data Store Brussels. Search for Urbis LiDAR. You can choose the format, geographic projection, and version, although we don't have to worry about that here because there's only one option. Next, you select the grids that you want. The grid I'm using in this particular example is 151777. Then hit download. Now remember that these point clouds can be very large, so one at a time works best. If you want to play around with any other data sets, they're all there. Just play around and download as you see fit.
All right, thank you, Linda. And let's move on to manufacturing. For manufacturing and mechanical, we've got improvements that are features and functions, but also that help the overall engineering manufacturing process. Some of those are improved for performance and robustness, especially around sheet metal unfolding and documentation, enhanced power DIMMs and automatic chamfers. We've made it easier to work with large assemblies with the introduction of the zoom and highlight feature, So when you're working in a large assembly, you can zoom to a particular area, and also improvements in welding dialog. And here's Callum to show us a little bit of that.
Notice this form feature at the edge isn't recognized. To fix this, we'll adjust a new setting. SM convert maximal extrusion depth near border. This controls how far a form feature can extend near borders and still be classified. Now, we'll rerun SM convert, and the edge touching form is now correctly recognized, ready for unfold and manufacture.
All right, and last but not least, on our BIM product, we're really have worked with having subcontractors and other building people work together better. What we've done here is improved project collaboration capabilities, mostly around a couple of things. Improvements to the Bricsys lib, so all of that data is kept up to date more in a better way. We've also introduced the ability to attach an IFC model as an XREF. So that's going to make the drawing smaller and makes it easier when that IFC model changes to update the XREF, and also support for importing and exporting of IFC 4x3. And here's one more short little video.
Subcontractors don't need to edit design geometry. They just need to reference it. And that's why in BricsCAD V26.1, we've introduced the IFC as an XREF, just like any other DWG workflow you're already familiar with. At import, check the import IFC file as an underlay. And BricsCAD will place the IFC in an underlays folder within your project directory, generate a DWG in the background, and will attach it to your drawing as an external reference. You can also choose how to align your reference points. The IFC, the global origin, project location, or site location can be aligned in your drawing to the WCS origin, survey location, project location, or site location. Click import and you're ready to go. Now you can refine your own deliverables while referencing external data. Toggle visibility in the attachments panel, view your content in the structure browser, when you export, only your trades data is included. Select export, pick the model view definition, and save. Collaborators receive only the clean data they need.
All right, that's it for a quick introduction. Do we have any questions?
Okay, actually, I haven't seen any questions coming in, but that was actually a really good overview, Julie. Thank you so much for doing that.
You're very welcome.
All right, and folks, I just want to remind you all that we are ZenTek Consultants. We are here if you guys are interested in the new release of the BricsCAD V26.1, whatever year version platform you're on right now. We can help you upgrade, and we can also help you train your staff, configure, structure all those new survey workflows and GIS and data and point cloud workflows for you as well. So feel free to reach out to us, sales@zentekconsultants.net. All right, thank you all for taking the time today. Hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.